great parent, great grandparents have to go through. So what about that kind of dynamic?
We need to lean back in, and we need to keep focus on our relationship.
No longer created some newsletters for you, and it talks about you seem good. Let me give everyone. This morning, I'm going to talk about you see me good, and that's my subject for this morning. And yesterday I mentioned how I am unmarried, and you probably say, well, what do you have to say to us married people? You know, but I believe that there is a dynamic, a human relationship dynamic that is necessary. Even if you're single, you're married, you know, you still need to be able to have that kind of connection. You still need to be able to know how to deal with people in order to be able to connect with them. There is a message that you have to release, and so you don't have their attention. If you can't get on the level where they want to hear what you have to say, then that alignment has been shut off from the very beginning. So what I'm talking about this morning is you see me good. And I'm going to tell you a story. I came across a story a couple of weeks ago, and it really just ministered to my heart. And the story is about a couple. And the gentleman who was married to this woman, he came home from work, and his wife was cooking dinner. And he had something that he needed to share with her. And he walked in, and he said, I need to talk to you. And she listened, she stopped what she was doing. He had her 100% attention. And he said, I've not been happy for a while, and I want a divorce. And she looked at him, and she started crying. And she said, why? He said, I'm not happy. And she started crying even more, and she started to, really react. And he shut down, and he went to bed. He immediately went to bed because he didn't want to deal with the emotional aspect of what she was going through. So when he got up the next morning, she was at the table, and she was writing a letter. And he saw her, he avoided her, and he went to work. And when he went to work, he told the woman that he was having a relationship with, I told her that I wanted a divorce. And Jane said, wonderful, now we can be together. So he goes back home later in the evening, and she's still at the table writing. And she says to him, I have some conditions. But he tells her first, I have some conditions for you. I want you to have a house. I want you to have a car. I want you to have everything. And she said, that's all fine and good, but I need you to hear what my conditions are. She tells him that when we first got married, you carried me over the threshold. And she said, for the next 30 days, I want you to physically carry me over the threshold. I want you to pick me up and carry me. And he thought at first, well, what is she talking about, And she says, because our son is going through some dynamics with his school, he's taking some SATs, but some high school tests. She said, I don't want to disrupt his life because of our issues. So for the next 30 days, I want it to appear that we're still in love. And she said, can you do that for me? He said, okay, that's kind of crazy, but I'm going to do that. So he goes back to his job. He leaves and he goes back to his job and he tells Jane she's going to give him a divorce. But after 30 days, during this 30-day period, this is what I have to do. This is my assignment. So she's happy. He goes back home and they go to bed. The next morning, he picks her up and he attempts to carry her, to the door. And they're kind of clumsy because they hadn't had that kind of interaction in a very, very long time. But they push through. And he goes to work, comes back home, still no interaction. But the next day, he does it again. And he has an opportunity to smell her cologne or her perfume. And the son is looking on and saying, yay, daddy loves mommy, he's carrying mommy across carrying mommy to the door. So he goes to work, and this routine continues on for 5 days, 10 days. And as they continue in this routine, she dresses up a little bit better. She puts her perfume on, she fixes her hair, and as he's picking her up, he's smelling her perfume. He's noticing certain things about her that he hadn't noticed before. So they get to the 17th day, and they're continuing, and the son is in the background. He's very happy because he's seeing that dynamic again with his parents. Obviously, those dynamics were not in place before. So they get to the 20th day, and he's feeling good about this. Something is being recaptured with him. And she's enjoying it too because, they're getting close again. So the 30th day comes, and he's continuing on his routine, and he goes to work, and he tells Jane, I don't want to marry you. I'm not going to divorce my wife. I'm going to stay with her. She looks at him and she says, you're crazy. What about me? What about me? And she smacks him. She goes about her business, and he goes home. This is the 30th day. And he goes home, and on his way home, he buys his wife some flowers, some red roses. He's happy because he feels as though that something on the inside of him has gotten reignited. He sees his marriage, his perception has been changed. So he goes home, and he's excited because he wants to see his wife again. And he goes into the bedroom, and he finds her dead. And he found out that his wife only had 30 days to live. She wanted to be able to experience for those 30 days the renewedness and the closeness and the things that she enjoyed with him when they first got married. So that's the story. So I'm going to break this down a little bit because there are so many dynamics in this story. And I want to kind of open this thing up. I'm going to share some dynamics, but we're going to talk about some of the things that were in place for them to get to this place in their marriage. Okay? You guys going to open up and we're going to talk to me. Let's get real. Let's talk. And let's, think about your relationships. Think about your marital relationships and the things that you go through. So, what happened? These people were married for 10 years. So there are a lot of dynamics that happen. These are two imperfect people coming together. Bernard mentioned how mess from one side and another side comes together. Two imperfect people that come together, and they have to find a way to blend all of that together. And in this situation, after 10 years, something happened. I believe they became strangers to one another. They stopped looking at each other from a perspective of love, so they became strangers. And they didn't value the details of their life anymore. Something broke down with a routine of life. Even in the routine, there was no value in the routine of life. So what happens when you encounter those things? You open yourself up. When you no longer see that person that you married as valuable. You open yourself up to someone else. Your attention turns from my husband or my wife to someone else. And that's what happened in this story. His attention changed from his wife of 10 years, and he got distracted, and he started turning to Jane. And so one of the first thing I want to talk about is how he didn't guard himself. He allowed the thing that should have been erected. And I believe, I'm unmarried and I could be wrong, but I believe that when you're married, there needs to be some type of invisible boundary, protector that you have to put in place. Not anyone else. You have to invoke that in your marriage. And I believe that thing came down. I believe that he allowed himself to be vulnerable with someone else that he should not have been vulnerable with. And he did it with a woman that had no idea of what her place was. You know, the Bible talks about women in the Bible who are adulterous as silly women. He allowed himself to get engaged with a silly woman. And then the Bible talks about a man that allows himself to get involved with a silly woman as a fool. So he was a fool for allowing himself to be pulled in. So that's the first talking point that I want to kind of open up. What happens when we take our eyes off of the person that we should really have our eyes on? You know, is the fruit illuminated? See, because Jane was illuminated. The things that he should have been seeing in his wife, the fruit in Jane started looking even more enticing. Does that happen in our relationships? In our male-female relationships? You know, when we're having those dynamics with our spouse or our fiance or whatever, and we leave out, and we go somewhere else, does that other person start looking better than our spouse? Is that something that happens in our relationships?
I think it's that, you know, the grass is greener on the other side, you think that, or like from the Tyler Perry movie, they talk about the 80-20 rule or something, where you're looking at the 20% that you're missing, and you're looking over here and it looks so much greater than the 80% that you have. So you leave your 80% for the 20%, and once you get over there, you realize, where's the other 80%? I left the 80% that I had for this little bit that I'm just going to get, And so, no, I think once you leave or once you get involved in those relationships, you do start to see that it's not what you thought it was, what it would be. You start to see that she or he is not all that, that what you had at home is so much greater and so much better. This is just a plaything, and that's what it was. And then I think when you first meet each other, everybody, you try to do your best and look your best and try to just show the good in you and put your best foot forward. And, but once you kind of get in and you're together for a while, you see, some other things. You see that it was just, just trying to, I can't think of what I'm looking for, but you're just trying to put your best foot forward. You wanted them to see the best side of you. Without seeing everything else that comes along. So.
Right. So the best side forward, usually that's an illusion, really, isn't it? When we're trying to show other people our best side, because that's not really who we are. Our best side is when we have the sleep in our eyes. And,
right.
I'm not saying that's our best side, but that's our real side. When we are, doing all the things that we don't like. That's